And welcome to another episode of the Tar Heels Insider Podcast right here on SI. I'm Grant Chachere, your host of the podcast and also the lead beat writer for North Carolina Tar Heels on SI. And we are a day away from the game. Let's just cut to the chase. We are a day away from the game. And this is a game that will be highly anticipated. Highly anticipated. I mean, this is probably, you could make a case it is the most highly anticipated home opener in the program history. I mean, if you really think about it, just based off of everything we know so far, right? You have Bill Belichick, 8-time Super Bowl winning champion. He, won 2 as assistant with the Giants, and of course won 6 with the Patriots. Then you have just this new team. This is a very interesting team. You have 70 new players, 40 of which were added after the spring. And so not only you have, all the hype surrounding Bill Belichick coaching in college for the first time, but you also have the intriguing element of it, which is you have 70 new players on the team, 40 of which came after the spring, including your starting quarterback, Gio Lopez. I mean, so this is a very, very, very interesting team. And there's a lot of it, there's a lot of excitement around Chapel Hill. I've seen a lot of people, they're not even talking about basketball. We're talking about football. Usually and the way I view things, and just kind of not being from North Carolina, and because I'm from the deep South. I'm originally from Louisiana, so football is huge, right? LSU football is huge. Ole Miss football is huge. Georgia football is huge. You name it, right? That's the region I grew up in. Football was king. Basketball was an afterthought, right? I wouldn't say an afterthought. I mean, people cared about basketball. You actually see it right now in the SEC. But for example, like LSU for its basketball team, it was seen as a, just kind of a holdover before baseball season started. It was kind of like the in-between sport between football and baseball because LSU fans really care about baseball. They've won, 8 national championships in the program's history. So there's a lot of, and that's what I felt like football was. I felt like football, for North Carolina, just its brand alone, its athletic brand, we know it more known for its basketball program, not so much as football. And we've talked about this on the pod, where North Carolina's football team was even seen as an afterthought to the university. We're learning more and more about the history of the program under Bill Belichick, which he's only been here since last December. So really, it hasn't even been a full year yet. And he's telling us about all these great players in the 60s and 70s. You've already had the Rude Boys be mentioned, right? And it wasn't even by Belichick, right? It was by the defensive background, right? Like Thaddeus Dixon and Marcus Allen and Gavin Gibson, where they talked about it on the come up, where they're talking about how they've gotten a chance to talk with a good bit of the Rude Boys, which was the legendary secondary from the 96 and 97 teams. So you've seen, so so you're seeing a lot of history being brought back to football program. Like you really like when you think about basketball, there's all these rafters hanging in the arena. Actually, there might be way too many rafters hanging in the arena. I mean, the amount of players that got honored and had their numbers retired to me, it's a lot, right? So you see North Carolina put an effort to honor his basketball history. You don't see much for football. You just don't see much for football. You might get a Drake May mention here and there. You might get a Sam Howell mention here and there. But you don't. And you're going to get Lawrence Taylor, right? Because Lawrence Taylor is the greatest defensive player in NFL history. He's seen as the most influential defensive player in NFL history, and a lot of that, of course, has to do with Bill Belichick, because Bill Belichick was Lawrence Taylor's defensive play caller when he was with the Giants. So you have all these. But it's not even just Lawrence Taylor. There was other great players on that team as well. There was 3 first rounders on the 1980 team. There's also 3 first rounders on the 97 team. You have 3 Pro Football Hall of Famers with Lawrence Taylor, of course. You also had a Hall of Famer with Julius Peppers. And then you also had a Hall of Famer with Chris Hamburger. And a lot of people probably didn't know who Chris Hamburger was until that video came out where Bill Belichick and the team were singing happy birthday to him. That guy was a 9-time Pro Bowler. He's in the Hall of Fame. He was one of the best linebackers of the 60s and 70s. That's over 2 decades. So you really are seeing a shift in how people in Chapel Hill view North Carolina football. They sold out like a month and a half ago. That's the earliest they've ever sold out for an entire season. Season tickets, when Bill Belichick was announced, like a couple of months later, the season tickets already sold out. There is excitement around this program. There's excitement around the fact that you have the greatest head coach, regardless of level, in football history, coaching your sidelines. And on top of that, you have a marquee opponent with TCU coming in. So, I mean, this is going to be a huge, huge game for the program. And not only that, you're going to have all kinds of national media in Chapel Hill. You already know ESPN is going to be in town, right? Nick Saban, Teddy Bruschi, Pat McAfee, they're all going to be doing their special show before the game. Then on top of that, you're going to have media from Boston. You're going to have media from the New England. Like, for example, yesterday, I was on the phone with a radio station in Vermont, right? That's the New England area. There's a lot of Patriots fans that live in New England. Well, not a lot of Patriots fans. Of course, there's a lot of Patriots fans that live in New England. But there's a lot of Patriots fans that live in Vermont because it's from Vermont, because they're in the New England region. And I was on a radio station with them. The week before, we had a reporter from the Boston Globe cover the spring practice, and also had a one-on-one interview with Bill Belichick. I think it was Ben Bolin. I think that's his name. So you're going to have all these national talking heads. You're going to have national sports writers at this game. This isn't some regular home opener. This is the start of North Carolina trying to become an athletic powerhouse, right? I mean, it's always been an athletic powerhouse. But football never really was a part of the, I wouldn't say a part. It was a part of the equation. But now you see the university pushing more and more like football. Because in the age of NIL, guess what the major revenue driver is? Football. It is. And yeah, basketball is a revenue driver too. But football is 24/7, 365 days of the year. Basketball, you get a good bit of coverage. You're going to get a lot of coverage throughout the year. But football is a beast. It is a beast in itself. We have seen college football literally destroy conferences, okay? We saw that with the Big East. Right? Because that was a big thing. Like, one of the biggest reasons why the Big East fell apart was because they didn't really pay attention to football. Now, we still have the Big East, like, right, with the Big East incarnation. I'm talking about the Big East today with Villanova and St. John's and Creighton. Like, the Big East. So I'm talking about the old Big East. We had Syracuse, right? And, of course, UConn joined the new Big East, too, eventually. But I'm talking about the old Big East where you had Syracuse, you had Boston College, and you had Pitt. And, you had all these different colleges. But if you pay attention, all the colleges that had football, that played Division I football at the FBS level in the Big East, they all left the conference. They all left. Rutgers with the Big Ten, Syracuse and Pitt went to the ACC. Louisville left for the ACC because they eventually joined it after they were in the Conference USA for a little bit. And because the Big East didn't really, I wouldn't say they didn't care about football, but basketball was his main priority. Miami was a part of the Big East. There's a lot. I think was Xavier part of the Big East too? Well, now they are, but no, they're not. Then they were part of the A-10. Never mind. But You get the point. Football destroyed that conference. It did. And one of the biggest mistakes the Big East did was not getting Penn State to join the Big East. And Penn State wanted to join the Big East. But because Penn State was more of a football school than a basketball school, they didn't accept him. And that probably ended up being a humongous mistake. Humongous. So that's why football is very, very important. You have to pay attention to football. You have to focus on football. I'm not saying you got to take away the focus from basketball, but you have to focus on football. And that's something the university has really addressed in the last few years, especially now. Like we've seen boosters and board of trustee members like, oh no, we're all in on Belichick. We want football to win. We don't want to be left behind. We already heard the rumors about, North Carolina possibly joining the SEC. They may join the Big Ten, but the main rumor, the main thing has been UNC joining the SEC. Again, I don't know if that's ever going to happen. I once again, nothing. We won't know until a few years down the road, right? Because the fees to leave the conference don't drop down until around 2029 and 2030. So it's going to be 4 or 5 years from now. But you've heard that. We've heard that. I mean, I've reported on it. I kind of gave some scenarios. I mean, of course, Inside Carolina, Tar Heel for 24/7, all the sites that cover North Carolina, we have talked about. We've talked about this. And football is a big driver. It is. And like I said, this is the biggest home opener in UNC history. I haven't been here that long, but what other home opener has this much hype? Seriously. Maybe Mac Brown's first year, but that was in Charlotte. It wasn't in Chapel Hill. Now, there's a lot of excitement for it. A little bit of excitement. Not this much time, but a little bit of excitement because Mac Brown's a legend, of course, at this university. He's the winningest head coach in program history. I mean, he had a very successful first stint in North Carolina. So, it was a little bit of a homecoming. Really, think about it. There really hasn't been that much. And at least in modern history, right? I'm not maybe, you maybe had some before the foundation of the ACC, because I know UNC defeated Texas in 1948. That was a huge upset then. And you had Charlie Choo Justice. But, again, that was what? Now almost we're approaching 80. Was it 80 years ago? You know what I'm saying? Well, maybe not 80. Was it 80 years ago? 48, 58, 60, 58, 68, 78, 88, 98, 2008, 2018. Yeah, 80. 80. So if you subtract about 3 years, that's 77 years ago. It's a long time, man. Long time. So that's what I'm saying. This is the biggest home opener in program history, and you're going up against a marquee opponent. TCU is no slouch, and I've discussed this before. They're 220 and 95 since the year 2000. They've been to multiple New Year's Six, BCS / New Year's Six / college football playoff bowl games. They've had 8 or 9 11-win seasons during that stretch. UNC's only had 1. Shoot. How many times has UNC had 10-win seasons? Because if you count for 10-win seasons, TCU has over 10, maybe 15. UNC still only has 1. It was the 2015 year where they went 11-3. That's it. They have only won 10 or more, they've only had 10 or more wins since 2000. TCU has a lot. I know some of it was because they played in the Conference USA, and they played in the WAC, and they played in the Big East. Well, not the Big East. Well, the WAC and the Conference USA, and the Mountain West. But they still also had multiple 10-win seasons in the Big 12. 2022, they went to the national championship game. I believe in 2017, they won 10 games. In 2014 and 2015, they won 11 games. So they've had 10 plus win seasons since they joined the Big 12 in 2012. How many has UNC had since the year 2000? Like I said, 1. So this is a marquee opponent. And you're going up against Sonny Dykes, who is a hell of a head coach himself. Sonny Dykes has won at every single place he's been at, with the exception being Cal. But Cal doesn't give a flying crap about football. Let's be honest, they don't. And which is why he wanted to leave a lot. One of the biggest reasons why he got fired is because he wanted to leave Cal. It's been reported and talked about. And even that, he won there. They went 8-5 one year, and with Jared Goff and all that. And his first year they went 1-11 because he took over a really bad situation at the end. And then they improved and went to a bowl game 2 years later. And really had nothing to do with losing. Like, I mean, part of the reason why Cal was losing is because they had a athletic administration and an academic institution that didn't really care about sports. He's won at every single place he's been at. The offenses have been elite. He's at more. In 7 of the 14 years he's been a head coach, they've had a top 10 passing offense. Same thing with having a top 15 offense. This isn't some slouch. And I think what makes it the most anticipated home opener in UNC history is because you have Bill Belichick. It is because you have this unique ordeal with the team. You don't really know much about them because there's so many new players, but that's what makes it exciting. You don't know. It's almost like a surprise. And then on top of that, you have a very good program coming into Chapel Hill. And ESPN. Oh, by the way, and also should have mentioned this too, and ESPN's coming to town. They're bringing the big game crew. Reese Davis and Kirk Herbstreit are calling the game. 2 of the biggest voices for ESPN in terms of college football are calling the game. And then on top of that, you also have, in the pregame show, you have Matt Berry, who's been a Sports Center host, I believe, for the last 5 to 10 years. Then you have Nick Saban and Pat McAfee and Teddy Bruschi joining him at the desk. Pat McAfee's probably the biggest personality in ESPN. I know some people will say Stephen A., but Pat McAfee's more popular than Stephen A. He is. Just because Stephen A. is getting paid a lot more money than Pat McAfee doesn't mean that Pat McAfee's not more popular than he is. Nick Saban, of course, is a longtime friend of Bill Belichick. Nick Saban was an assistant under Bill Belichick when Bill Belichick was the head coach of the Browns in the early to mid-90s. And, of course, Teddy Bruschi, he's not an analyst for college football for ESPN. He's an ESPN NFL analyst. But he's going to be on the desk. Why? Because he played for Bill Belichick for a very long time. If there's anybody who knows more about who knows a lot about Bill Belichick, it's probably him. He played for the man. He got chewed up on the man. So this is a really, really exciting time in Chapel Hill. It really is. It just is. This is by far the biggest home opener in UNC history. I've only been here for a very short time, but from what I've gathered and talked to people who've covered this program, I mean, how many home openers have this type of pizzazz and hype and any word that revolves around the word excitement? This is a big, big, big game for North Carolina. And if they win, and I said this on the radio show yesterday when I appeared on the radio show in Vermont, I said this: if UNC wins this game against TCU, they might be a playoff team. Just based off the fact that the rest of the schedule is easy. Well, most of it's easy. Of course, there's going to be some difficult games. Like Clemson is going to be difficult. Going to UCF is going to be difficult, even though they're a 4-8 team. That's still a difficult place to play. You still got to play Duke and NC State, right? And Duke, look, I think Duke is going to be really good this year. Like, it's a very favorable schedule. Like, you could lose 2 games. Like, if UNC wins the game against CCU, there's only about 2 or 3 games they could lose the rest of. I feel like that they will lose the rest of the way. And they have a shot. And if they make it to the ACC championship, they have a shot. They really do. They have a shot making the playoff. And I think that's what makes this game even more exciting. Because it's one less thing you got to worry about. But anyway, I'm your host, Grant Chachere. Please make sure to follow us on Tar Heels on SI on Twitter. And also do the same thing for Facebook, North Carolina Tar Heels on SI. Also, make sure to follow me on Twitter at Chachere Grant. My Twitter handle is right down the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. And then also make sure to check out the website as well, si.com/college/UNC. Once again, si.com/college/UNC. Man, I'm really excited for this game tomorrow. And by the way, later today, I'm going to film a podcast episode with Jeremiah Artacho, kind of giving our thoughts and predictions for the game tomorrow. Should be a little bit of a longer episode. Usually keep their episodes around 10 to 20 minutes. Might be 30, 40 minutes, but it depends on what we have to talk about. I mean, we have 2 people on the show. It tends to be a little bit longer because they're going to put their thoughts in. And Jeremiah has a lot of thoughts. And he's from the area. He goes to UNC. So it'll be very interesting. So make sure to check that out tomorrow. That'll be published first thing tomorrow. So anyway, I'll see you guys tomorrow. You guys have a great one. Thank you so much for watching. And make sure to tune in for the game on Monday. If you can't make it to the game will be on at 8 p.m. on ESPN. You guys have a good one. Peace.